Golf loves to crown the next superstar before they've even played a season. Some kids looked like they'd rewrite the record books. Others had swings so smooth people swore they were destined for majors. And yet, most of them never got close. The broken runs, the hype gone cold, and the names that disappeared when the stage got real. 1. Bryony Baird. Bryony wasn't a complete flameout. He stuck around for years, racked up more than $13 million in career earnings, and was a fixture on the PGA Tour. But what's the first thing that comes to mind with his name? 0 wins. Think about it, dozens of top 10 finishes, multiple close calls, and still no trophy to lift on Sunday. In 2003, he lost a playoff at the John Deere Classic. In 2011, he came painfully close at the Fries.com Open, only to get beaten by Bryce Mulder. For years, fans waited for him to finally seal the deal. It never happened. Was it bad luck, nerves, or was his ceiling just a notch lower than the guys who do close the door? That's the thing about golf. The line between a respected veteran and a forgotten name is one putt here, one swing there. When his career wound down, Baird became a footnote in PGA history. Not because he wasn't good, but because he couldn't finish the job. To earn millions without ever winning shows both the depth of his talent and the narrow margin that separates stars from survivors. 2. Robert Gamez. Few debuts in golf history were as explosive as Robert Gamez's. In 1990, he came on tour and stunned everyone. His first win came in only his second start. By March, he delivered one of the most iconic shots of the decade, a 7-iron on the final hole at Bay Hill that found the cup for eagle and victory over Greg Norman. He looked unstoppable. But what followed was a slow decline. Injuries piled up, confidence faded, and that bold young talent turned into a journeyman. He won again in 1991, and then nothing. Year after year, his name drifted further down the leaderboard. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, he was a familiar face, but never a serious contender. Gamez's early flash made the fall sting more. When a prodigy bursts through the door with fireworks, the world expects a long reign. Instead, his story became one of what-ifs. Could he have managed his health differently? Could his career have mirrored those early victories? 3. Ralph Guldahl. Ralph Guldahl is one of the strangest cases in golf history. In the late 1930s, he was on fire. He won the US Open twice. He claimed the Masters. He had the smooth swing, the calm personality, and the results to match. He looked like a player who'd dominate for years. Then he picked up a pen. Guldahl worked on an instructional golf book, breaking down every detail of his technique. Somewhere in the process of analyzing and overanalyzing, he lost his natural feel. His dominance vanished almost overnight. By the early 1940s, he was basically done as a force. Imagine that. A player at the peak of his powers, losing his edge not because of injury or scandal, but because he dissected his own swing too much. It's almost tragic. Players today guard their routines with military precision to avoid losing that edge. Guldahl didn't, and it cost him the second half of his career. The smallest disruption, even self-inflicted, can bring down a giant. 4. David Duval. David Duval was the guy who looked ready to be Tiger Woods' true rival. In the late 1990s, his game was airtight. He won 11 times in just 3 years. He climbed to world number 1. Then in 2001, he finally broke through at a major, capturing the Open Championship at Royal Lytham and St. Anne's. At that point, the script was perfect. Woods versus Duval, golf's new rivalry. And then, silence. Almost overnight, the wind stopped coming. His swing got shaky, his back and wrist gave him problems, and his confidence crumbled. By 2003, Duval was missing cuts by double digits. His world ranking plummeted faster than anyone expected. Commentators went from asking when he'd win again to whether he'd ever play the weekend at all. The mystery of Duval is that his collapse wasn't one single thing. It was a storm of injuries, weight fluctuations, vision issues, and just as important, a mental fatigue that made the grind unbearable. For someone who once made the game look automatic, golf suddenly looked impossible. If you're into the real stories behind golf's hype and heartbreak, subscribe now. More unfiltered breakdowns are coming. 5. Ricky Fowler. Few modern players have carried as much marketing weight as Ricky Fowler. From the moment he stepped onto the PGA Tour with flat brim caps and Puma's bright orange Sunday outfits, Fowler wasn't just a golfer, he was a brand. Kids copied his style. Sponsors lined up behind him. The tour leaned on him as one of its most visible young stars. But endorsements don't win majors. On the course, Fowler's resume has been solid but underwhelming. He's collected a handful of PGA Tour victories and even won the Players' Championship in 2015. A career highlight, yet the expectation was much larger. People believed he'd grab majors, maybe multiple, and stand shoulder to shoulder with Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth. That never happened. Part of the problem was timing. Fowler often peaked in the wrong weeks. In 2014, he finished top 5 in all 4 majors, an incredible feat, but he didn't win any of them. That summed up his career in one season. Good enough to contend, never able to close. His swing tinkering also hurt him, making him streaky. At his lowest point, his world ranking sank past 140. For a man once expected to lead American golf, that was a staggering fall. 6. Maverick McNealy. Few modern amateurs received as much hype as Maverick McNealy. At Stanford, he climbed all the way to number 1 in the World Amateur Golf Ranking. He had the name, the pedigree, and a game that looked tour-ready before he even signed a card for money. People started comparing him to Jordan Spieth. That's a dangerous comparison for anyone. When he turned pro in 2017, expectations shot through the roof. He had sponsors, invitations, and a clear runway to build momentum. What followed, though, was a grind. He made cuts, but rarely contended. His swing looked solid, but not threatening. On leaderboards, his name floated in the middle, never on Sunday afternoons when it mattered. By 2020, he still hadn't broken through with a win. He showed flashes, a top finish here, a near miss there, but nothing that lived up to the can't miss label. Today, he's still working, still trying, but the aura is gone. The hype has cooled. McNealy is now treated as just another good pro, not the next American superstar. Was he weighed down by the comparisons, or is he simply a steady, solid player who got mislabeled as a prodigy? 7. Ryo Ishikawa. When Ryo Ishikawa burst out of Japan as a teenager, the world believed it was seeing a global superstar in the making. At just 15, he won a professional tournament in Japan. By 17, he was already one of the youngest players ever to break into the world's top 50. His smooth swing and boyish charisma drew massive crowds. He wasn't just a golfer, he was a celebrity. The PGA Tour welcomed him with hype and headlines. He was called the Bashful Prince, and Japanese television followed his every move. In 2010, at 18 years old, he shot a final round 58 in Japan, one of the lowest scores ever recorded in professional golf. People were ready to crown him the next global face of the game, but the transition to America didn't stick. The pressure mounted. Ishikawa struggled on tough courses where precision mattered more than flair. His putting wavered and his short game couldn't keep pace with the best. On the PGA Tour, he rarely cracked the top of the leaderboard. By the mid-2010 SS, his appearances were few and his spotlight had dimmed. He still plays mostly in Japan, winning here and there, but the early dream that he'd challenge for majors and be a global icon is gone. 8. Michael Sim. Michael Sim might be one of the most frustrating Prodigy stories because the talent was undeniable. Born in Scotland, raised in Australia, he was labeled as the next Greg Norman. His amateur career was brilliant. He turned pro in 2001, and within a few years he was tearing up the nationwide tour, now Korn Ferry. In 2009, he won 3 times there, earning a Battlefield promotion to the PGA Tour. Analysts said it was just the beginning. Tiger Woods even gave him a public nod, saying he expected Sim to rise fast. That's how high the respect was. Yet once he reached the main stage, his body betrayed him. Back injuries, wrist injuries, and constant time off turned momentum into stop and start misery. Every time he looked ready to break through, something forced him to sit out. The glimpses were real. He finished runner-up at the 2009 Nationwide Tour Championship, cracked the top 50 in the world rankings, and looked ready for a President's Cup slot. But by 2011, the injuries had derailed everything. His ranking collapsed, his tour card slipped away, and the hype turned into whispers of what might have been. 9. Matteo Manassero. Matteo Manassero's story might be the most painful to watch in modern golf. At 16, he won the British Amateur Championship, making him the youngest ever. A year later, at 17, he became the youngest player to make the cut at the Masters. The golf world immediately hailed him as the future. By 19, he had won 4 times on the European Tour. He was mature, precise, and fearless under pressure. Analysts said he was bound for majors, maybe even to challenge Rory McIlroy. Everything looked set for superstardom. Then the collapse came. Around 2014, his swing started to change. He tried adding distance to compete with bombers, and in the process, he lost his greatest weapon, control. His iron play, once razor sharp, turned inconsistent, confidence drained away. His world ranking dropped into the hundreds. At one point, he fell outside the top 1,000. So what's harder, never making it at all, or touching the top at a young age and then watching it all fall apart? For Manassero, the fall was steep and it's still ongoing, and that's the full rundown on golf's lost prodigies. Each had the talent, none found the ending they were supposed to. If you want more stories that cut through the hype and show the truth behind the game, subscribe, share this video, and keep watching for what's next.